From then on, the rest of the story of the show plays like a damn fanfic with continuity issues. It's what I consider to be poor or rushed storytelling in order to mainly focus on representation and shipping rather than genuine storytelling and fleshed out diverse characters. Its story makes as much sense of that of Amethyst manipulating Greg Universe with shape-shifting to his dead wife and getting a slap on the wrist by clearing out his garage, or the storyline of MK11.
I see now. The hourglass showed that only I could wield the crown against Chronica successfully. You let me win. And to ensure victory, you sacrificed the lives of your friends. How deliciously cold-blooded.
This is one of the many reasons why animes and mangas are much more popular over Western animation and comic books in recent years, because they understand what kind of content they're making them for before they're even released. Just look at the sales between the two on Amazon for the last year, and you tell me if I'm wrong on that statement.
I grew up watching anime because American shows are like episodic, and anime is like, you know, what is it called, like a serial? Like it's continuous. And so watching like Dragon Ball Z growing up, what happens next? And they always leave in the cliffhanger, you know, like Goku's about to go Super Saiyan, and you're like, I gotta see the next episode, oh man. And you have this really long story where someone asks you like, what's happening in this episode? Oh dude, you gotta watch 100 episodes to figure out what's happening here. And then American shows, it was like, at the end of every show, it just restarts.
Yes.
It's just like nothing changes, and it was just gag humor, and I wasn't a big fan of that.
There was a famous story a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago where one manga series called Demon Slayer, I think, is outselling the entire American comics industry.
Whoa!
Just one.
Well, hold on.
I've always said, like, manga is like the MMA versus, if you've ever seen those videos of the MMA fighter versus like the Tai Chi fighter, and it's just like a brutal beatdown of like, American comics look really great, but if you pit American comics versus manga, manga's gonna win every time.
Why is that?
I could do a whole thesis.
Look,
on
I'll tell you this. When I see these like ultra woke trash comics,
no one wants to
anywhere
read it.
near that.
Well,
Nobody
that's
wants
why did that happen? It seems like that happened to comics in a way that it just hasn't happened to other
They
industries
took-
in an overt way. So most creative industries lean to the left,
Yeah.
but it just seems like comics are really far to the left compared to the other ones, and in a much more overt way.
They
so
took
most
over, man.
movies and television shows will have a left-wing message, but they're not like making a big deal of the fact that they are having a left-wing message, not as often. Yeah, but why comics
Disney,
though? Why
Disney.
why don't the same rules apply to these other industries?
Probably.
That's what
My assumption is that comic sales were slumping, and these companies thought, we're only getting white men. We have this whole untapped audience of diversity of like, you know, non-white, female, etc.
Did they though?
So how could? Yes, that's what a lot of them do. They think their core audience is this one group, and how do we expand into all these other areas? So what they start doing is making diverse messages because they think that's what people want, instead of realizing nobody wants that. So these comics start seeing their sales decline, and instead of saying, let's make another brand new comic for this market, they say, let's make Iron Man a young black woman. Because then the Iron Man fans will watch and read, and the other communities who don't now will. And it's like, no, now you've just made a weird character that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. I look at manga, it's not in there. Like I got Crunchyroll, man, and I'm like, each and every one of these action shows, I just watch, I'm like, wow, it's actually pretty good.
Well, you want to talk about diversity, for example. Like, there were so many female creators in Japan creating, like, say, shoujo series. That's a girl series. You know, I've got a couple of Rumiko Takahashi, Masami Suda, Fuyumi Sorio.
Yeah, but Rumiko did Inuyasha. And
Inuyasha, dude, she did so many. And if you want to talk about like female creators and
those are
empowering,
huge mangas and
massive. She's one of the richest manga creators in history, woman. And there was no inkling of like, oh, she was oppressed or she wasn't. She just made good books, and she found an audience that wanted to buy and read her stuff. They were crazy about it. Even here in the States. That's why if I go to Barnes & Noble, I try to like talk to some people like, hey, why do you read this series? And they just tell me, oh, I just like the story. I want to find out what's happening next, even though it's not in color. Americans love books in color, but if you give them like Berserk, the creator of Berserk, Kentaro Miura, recently died. Everybody now was talking about, all of last week, we're talking about how much they love Berserk. It's a black and white series, one of the coolest, darkest fantasy series you've ever heard of. They love that series.
So Inuyasha is about a furry And Ranma is about a transgender martial artist.
Really?
I'm
They
grossly mischaracterizing the animes.
I was also
No,
giving
but
you
in a
hard
way, I mean, really, that gives you an idea of the people just wanted to read a story that they wanted to enjoy. There was no pushing of an ideology.
Yeah.
For them, especially in manga, story is the king. They're really focused on how do I get the readers to read the next chapter. Always, they're planning the story in such a way, like I just started getting into One Piece, and I can't get enough of it. It's so fun, and I want to find out what's happening next, and I just like the characters, I like the world. It's fun to read. An American comic nowadays, like I open it and I have to push myself. I have to force myself to turn the page. It's so boring, and I can't explain why, but when I read a manga, I can't put them down.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Critical, DC, Marvel these days have been on a losing streak in terms of the comic books. Say what you will about the movies or whatever, but in terms of the books, they haven't been doing a great job. In fact, they've been pretty bad, like very bad. In terms of the direction, the lack of respect to what happened before, legacy of these characters that they have, leading with these social preferences, not even good analogies, just straight up beating you over the head, like they don't know what they're doing. You wouldn't support characters that are new, or you wouldn't support it to the, a similar degree, or, all these characters were created back in the Gap. So we have to kind of try to make it more reflective of the real world. So we have to race change instead of coming up with new characters because you wouldn't support. That's the excuse that they use. And these are terrible arguments. All it is a deflection to try to get the heat off of them because people are pointing out, guys like myself, their creativity is just bankrupt. They're creatively bankrupt. There's something that's growing in the West, even more, that proves all of what they say to the contrary. Anime and manga. The Japanese are able to sit here and come up with stories that are new. They're not like long standing. I'm not talking like the Dragon Balls of the world that have been a thing forever. No, I'm talking these fools are turning hits into something that was created less than a decade ago. One Punch Man was not that long ago when it was created. My Hero Academia was not that long ago. So why on earth can they come up with I'm talking brand new, launching entire universes, worlds that are brand new. Not to mention they're not like beating you over the head with the political or social agendas. That's never mind that. But these things are like brand new that is every day. Like I'm not that big into it, but every day I hear new manga, new anime. That's just a hit. And it's like watching something that I've never seen before. May it be influenced on something that happened before? Yeah, but it's like entirely new. It's a new thing. These characters, there's no predating. No, it's just new. The whole thing is just new. How can they continue to do that? And I'm supposed to hear these mainstream books who probably have more money, mainstream holders of these mainstream comic books. I'm supposed to be like, yeah, well, they got a race change because manga and anime, it's existing right now, and it proves all of what you're saying to the contrary. They come up with new stories based on characters that have special abilities and everything. Like it's almost like it's going out of style. They do it so much, it's easy for them. So why can they do it, but the people that have, like the DCs or the Marvels of the world, seem to have so much trouble, or the excuses that, well, we can't come up with creative characters that people support. Well, the Japanese don't have that problem. Maybe it's actually you. Maybe it's the people that are part of your projects. Maybe it's the creative directors. Maybe it's the writers. Maybe it's the producers. Maybe it has nothing to do with this idea that the market doesn't want that, or so. Maybe that has nothing to do with it. Maybe it's simply you are creatively bankrupt. So what you do is you lead with your social political views, like as in that has to be what comes first. You have to do race changes. You have to do sexuality changes. You have to do all these forms of different tokenization because you are incapable of coming up with a new character, new likable things. When the Japanese, and of course you got independent comics here as well, but the Japanese especially are doing it like it's nothing. I'm talking stuff that came out within the last decade, bro. That is brand new and fresh. You the first in best dressed with DC and Marvel, so you should be doing that like it's going out of style. You can do it. You just don't have the capacity to do it in the terms of like your creativity. And I don't think that's what they want to concede. That the people that they have on their projects don't know what they're doing.
Hell, I honestly rather be watching Ranma 1.5 or Yuri on Ice because they're far more entertaining and meaningful regardless of the target audience they're going for. Best of all, they do not assault or bully someone who is or isn't of LGBTQ, but just a fan of anime that's entertaining and comedic. In conclusion, Netflix's She-Ra is a mess from start to finish. It's mainly for an insecure audience like an at-home therapy session for those who haven't gotten over their damn TDS and need something as their escapism.
Your fantasies about the mask are inducing hallucinations, feelings of persecution.
Parents! I'm not the one in denial!
Its flashy animation is not enough of a distraction, along with its cheaply sexist designs involving that god-awful cal art style that just shows there wasn't enough originality or uniqueness in its presentation compared to the original 80s. FYI, the original She-Ra was actually historically helmed by actual females who were responsible not just for the original character designs, but the toy models as well. Look it up. And lastly, it's for those who love fanfics and shipping characters even if they're toxic like Catra, no different than Raylos, but I guess it gets propped up more if it's same-sex rather than a heterosexual couple. Talk about double standards in media. This show is just another example of the continuing downfall of Western animation in the last 7 years. Like Steven Universe, Netflix's She-Ra is the prime example of when you allow the creative process to be taken over by representation and ignorance at the same time, leaving no room for true creativity, continuity, storytelling, and fleshed out characters. Once were timeless and meaningful characters have since become victims of this toxic political climate of today. It's important to point out that some of these SJWs are into rape fics involving Catra, which are plainly just justifying those like Johnny Depp to continue being in an abusive relationship with Amber Heard, which shouldn't be acceptable at all. I can't imagine what Silent Bob's Kevin Smith has in mind for the He-Man reboot. Even if the artwork is being done by acclaimed animator and comic book artist Jeff Masoda, best known for his work on Jackie Chan Adventures and the Batman 2004 cartoon, it's Smith's political beliefs that makes me feel cautious about where this project goes. Though I shan't hold my breath if it turns out to be a repeat of the same thing we got with Netflix's She-Ra reboot, only to continue the sexist attack on men, women, and culture with redesigns like this. Need I say more?
What the fuck?
Hey guys, it's Retromeister again. Thank you for watching this video. If y'all enjoyed it, definitely share, like, and subscribe to my channel for more content coming up soon, and support in the battle for alternative media. You guys stay awesome, and I'll see you all in the next video.